Hello and welcome to the official Hayters Premier League Roundup show. I'm your host, Aaron Goldstein, and today I'm joined by Lewis Byron and Aisha Galati. Football moves pretty fast. This time last week, I was sat in this very chair gushing about how great Tottenham were in their 3-0 win away at Old Trafford. It's been 1 week. At this time, half-time yesterday, and I thought potentially a Tottenham title charge is coming. But capitulation ensued, and as Giorgio Chiellini says, it is the history of the Tottenham.
But I certainly experienced something new, which, with all these things, straight after a game, you're emotional about it. But like I said, that's probably the most disappointing loss I've had since I've been here in terms of, the way we went about it. And it's something I need to assess.
Speak about a game of two halves. What happened yesterday?
Yeah, you said it. Game of two halves. Hate that phrase, but never has it been more apt than with this game. Spurs were on a winning run. They're on course for a 6th consecutive victory. But what do? They Spurs it up, of course. I think Ange said it was, this is as bad as it gets. I don't think he's been at Tottenham long enough if he thinks this is as bad as it gets, to be honest. But I don't know. It was just a case of totally on top. They didn't finish the game off. They could have had at least a third, if not more. And it came back to bite them, really, didn't it? Brighton, fair play. They were brilliant in the second half and deserved the win.
Yeah, I thought before the game it was always going to be a high-scoring game. Both teams have good attacking options, but they both play very high lines. And you could say that's their weak point. I don't really get why Tottenham in the second half seem to maintain the high line. And when you do that, you should still press with the same intensity. But as we see, it was only really Dom Solanke who was pressing in that second half. So you've got a high line, but the midfielders are sitting deep. And that's where you're allowing players to time on the ball to pick the passes in that space behind. So it was poor from Tottenham in the second half.
I mean, Tottenham are slightly bizarre. Let's be positive for a second. Ange can get the best out of this team when they're going forward. Brennan Johnson, who, last season people were really unsure of his £50 million price tag, has now scored 6 in a row. But is Ange the right man to get the best out of this Spurs side across all areas of the park?
For me, he can. I do think he has a good philosophy as a manager, but he has to learn how to adapt to the game environment, what the game is showing in front of him. We see Arteta do it really well. Arsenal can play teams off the park 1 week, and when they need to, they can sit in for a half, in a low block against Man City and almost hold them off. Ange needs to, maybe put his pride aside and adapt to the different environment he's in with his games.
Do you agree, Aisha?
Yeah, I think maybe you're being a bit harsh, and I'm not surprised to Arsenal fans.
I thought I was tame there.
Yeah, but we can't write Spurs off yet. It was bad. That second half yesterday, it was poor. But I don't think we're saying Ange is not the man for the job. I think he's shown that he can get a lot out of his players. Like you mentioned, Johnson, a great success story. And I think, it's definitely too early to write them off.
The one thing you can say about Spurs is you see an identity in the way they play every week. Every single game this season, I thought you've been able to see that is Tottenham. That is the style of play that Ange wants to implement. And last week, the big question was, were Tottenham brilliant or were Man United horrific? And no one really knew the answer. This week, we kind of do. But again, when it comes into how Ange adapts, so at halftime, Pervis Estupiñán came on for Brighton, seemingly turned the game on its head. Why are fullbacks becoming increasingly more important?
Yeah, I think obviously as the years have gone on, especially the last 5-10, it's got a lot more tactical and a lot more, percentage based in the way they're playing. What's the better percentage of keeping the ball and scoring? And I think overloads is a big thing with that. So fullbacks now are coming inside to midfield to create overloads, or they're staying wide and the wingers are doing it. So I think that's probably why fullbacks are having more of an impact in today's game. They want better ball players out in them positions, and it's not just sort of your Gary Nevilles.
No one wants to go out to be a Gary Neville. The thing is, and I think one of the biggest compliments you can pay to Brighton is one of the biggest problems you can pick out from Spurs. You look at Graham Potter, De Zerbi, now Herzl has come in. They all seem to be able to get the best out of this Brighton team. But if you put it in contrast, Tottenham, they've had so many managers over the past few years, and great managers too. Conte, Mourinho, Pochettino, if you want to put him in the same upper tier bracket. Now Ange Postecoglou. What is the problem? Is it the managers? Is it the DNA of Tottenham?
I think you summarised it quite nicely there. Even the names you said, there's a big difference, I think, in those names of managers that Spurs have brought in over the years compared to Brighton. Often with Brighton, there may be lesser known managers, and we're wondering, are they those big names like those Mourinho's, etc. And actually, that's the beauty of Brighton. Sorry, better say that one right.
Categorically not the beauty of Tottenham.
I think Brighton, they're just doing so much right. They're looking for the right man for the job, who can get the most out of these players. It's smart recruitment, really good reinvestment when they're selling those players. Your Trossards, your McAllisters, bringing in really brilliant players and then selling them on and using that money effectively. And that trickles down through the club as well. And, you had Pascal Gross yesterday at the match, and that was such an amazing, unique moment when everyone's sort of cheering him and bidding him an emotional farewell. And I think that says so much about the ethos of the club, and that they really just are one whole unit, the players, the manager, and even that's feeding into the women's side as well, and they're doing really well. And I think that whole holistic approach has just worked so well for Brighton over the years.
You say that though, but that does stem literally from the top down. That comes from Tony Bloom, who's a Brighton fan and has got this whole big Brighton ethos. And every time he hires a new manager, every time they look for a new player, it has to work down for Brighton. Is that what Tottenham are doing wrong? Is Daniel Levy getting it wrong?
Daniel Levy's very business orientated. It's not, you don't get that vibe that he's, like you said, a fan of the club, and he's, it's club first almost, and he don't mind taking a loss for a few years, which I think is what they need to do. It might be 2 or 3 years to really embed a system, a manager into the club and allow them to connect with the fans. But at the moment, I think Tottenham fans will admit it themselves, he's not really got that great connection with the fans, has he?
No, he doesn't. And I hate to say it because I'm a football fan above all, but football is a business as well. And Tottenham fans and football fans have to be a little bit more realistic. Daniel Levy's done an unbelievable job at Tottenham. He has taken Tottenham from being not nobodies, that's harsh, but they're not really meant to be one of the clubs in the bigger picture, in the question for challenging. And the fact that Tottenham fans are disappointed that they're not always challenging and they're not winning trophies is a pretty good sign. He's built them the best stadium in world sport. Be grateful. At the end of the day, very few teams can win the trophies that are up for grabs. There's 4 honours up for grabs in the Premier League, Champions League, FA Cup, League Cup, Europa League as well. And only one team is going to really win those, Manchester City, every single season. Everyone else is fighting to be up there, and Tottenham are up there. I think Tottenham fans should be a little bit more grateful, and that leads me on to the next question. What next for Spurs? Where are they going to be? January. Do you think we'll be going to be talking about the next Tottenham manager? Will Ange be gone, or will they be in the fight for top 4 still?
They'll be in the fight for top 4 for sure. Like you said, they've got a good system and they're unbelievable going forward. I just think he needs to be a little less naive. That's my honest opinion. Because with his system now, he will turn over a lot of teams and look really, really well, but it will always have a few games where you're going to look a little silly because the system doesn't allow for you to have a consistent run of form, I don't think. So I think he just needs to put his pride aside, if it is that, a little less naive, and adapt his style of play when needed.
Yeah, is it naivety? I don't know. I think there's I think on the whole he's doing a good job. You said it there. You can't win everything. I think for Tottenham fans, they would like to win something, but you can't always. And it is about those big moments. They beat Man United 3-0. I know Man United are not really a great team now, but they did do that. That's a great
Man
moment.
United were terrible.
They were.
I wouldn't. It sounds better than what it actually was. If Man United,
yeah, fair enough.
Good.
But you don't have to win all the games to get top 4, right?
No,
you have to just beat enough teams to get top 4. I think they'll definitely still be in the fight come January.
I love the phrase Spursy because it's a weird word and everyone sort of knows what it means. There was a period in the banter era at Arsenal where I was worried as an Arsenal fan that Arsenal were becoming Spursy, but now it's back and it's brilliant. I mean, you go through the great poets of history, your William Shakespeare's, Martin Luther King's, Peter Drury's. But a man from Italy, Giorgio Chiellini, he sums it up best. It's the history of the Tottenham. And I just 2-0 up, 3-2 down. That is as Spursy as it gets. We'll move away from Spurs. And if you have any comments, questions about Tottenham, please do get them in and we'll get through to them very soon. But Liverpool head into the international break at the top of the pile after yet another win, this time away at Crystal Palace. 10 games into his tenure, and Arne Slot has won 9. It's fair to say Liverpool look pretty good, and he's set himself up for, well, he's put himself in the record books alongside some of the greats.
Yes, and it's actually also quite special if you know how many great managers Liverpool had. But I also said last week, I think that I hope they don't only remember me in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years only for this. We are hoping to do more special things than this, and it also says the luck I had that I inherited a very good squad and a very good staff to continue getting the results that Jurgen had here as well.
He's got the shiniest head, and I love it. Liverpool are shining too, though. Can this Liverpool form be sustained?
I keep thinking it's going to drop off, but they do keep going. It's their best start since they won the title, I believe. And
no one remembers that. It was in COVID year.
I know, it doesn't count. It doesn't count.
It literally doesn't count.
They will be absolutely desperate to do it properly. And maybe this year is the year. But I think, 5 clean sheets, only 2 goals conceded. Their defence has been pretty impeccable. But on the flip side of that, it was only 1-0. 1-0's never safe. And it could have gone a different way. I think Chelsea and Arsenal are their next matches, and that's going to be the real test for them. They've still not played anyone, I think, in the top half other than Forest, who they lost to. So those are going to be the real tests when they play those 2 teams.
It's really interesting as well because we don't know the full extent of Alisson's injury yet.
Yeah,
but they're going to potentially be playing a couple of weeks without their number 1 goalkeeper. And I was actually going to go back to Spurs very briefly. The beginning of last season, Tottenham had a fantastic take off to the campaign. After 10 games, people really thought they were title challengers. And then everything goes, Tottenham up. The season was derailed by injuries, AFCON, and the general just intensity of the Premier League. Do you see any similarities between Liverpool and Spurs from last season? Will they drop off? And if they do, what will be the cause of that?
We're talking Liverpool, and you're bringing up Spurs. Spurs live rent free in your head, I think.
I'm from North London. It happens. I'm sorry.
No, I think Liverpool look a lot more solid than Spurs did last year. I think people overhyped that Spurs start last season just because of how exciting their football was. But Liverpool, for me, they've shocked me this year because I thought there'd be some teething problems, a little teething period after they lost Klopp, and I thought a few months it may take them to really establish their new style of play. They started a lot better than I thought. I do think, though, their wins haven't been as convincing as, let's say, Man City or even Arsenal, really. And can they sustain it? Not for the whole season. No, like you said, 1-0 wins. Palace had some good chances as well. 1 goal was ruled offside in 30 seconds or so. So I think Liverpool, it will drop off eventually.
No Luis Diaz, no Darwin Núñez, no problem. Yes, it was only 1-0, but the question that I have for you both, Aisha first. Do Liverpool have the best attacking options in the Premier League?
Yeah, I think they've got such great options. I think it's their quality. The quality is high, no doubt, but they also just have so many. We spoke a couple of weeks ago, I think, about what's the best front 3. And actually, I don't think it matters because I think they're all proving themselves and they're all just showing that even the different combinations can work together. Jota scored the other day, Gakpo assisted. I think they're definitely making it work, whatever front 3 goes out there, whatever attack goes out there. And I think they're looking really, really good.
Yeah, they're right up there. They're second probably to Man City, who to me have just got ridiculous options that maintain their level. But Liverpool probably second, probably above Arsenal, probably have a better attacking options off the bench than Arsenal these days, unfortunately. So yeah, they've got serious.
And behind that Liverpool front 3, Ryan Gravenberch, a totally different player since Slot took charge. Is he Liverpool's answer to, Rice and Rodri?
He's become, first choice number 6. And I think just that whole piece of a manager showing their conviction in you, I think that in itself is enough to give a player so much confidence. And yeah, he's definitely been instrumental to Liverpool's amazing start this season. He has spoken about, he really rates Slot. They've got a really good connection. There's that sort of Dutch element to it. And Slot's clearly getting the best out of him. He's just got that ability to really take control, I think. And yeah, defensively, Liverpool have been doing really well. And I think he's got a big part to play in that. But also a lot of the play going forward has been going through him as well. So I think he's doing a really great job. Whether he's Rodri, Rice levels yet, I mean, give it time. It's only a few games in and he's only 22. So, but I think it's looking exciting for him.
Yeah, I think they tried it with Trent, didn't they? But I do feel like he fits in a lot better than Trent in that position, because he's got more of a midfielder's mindset than Trent has. I feel like the timing of your movement, timing of your first touch, receiving the ball with your back to facing your own goal. These things I think Trent struggled with. And for me, he's never a centre midfielder. Whereas we've seen Gravenberch has shown them qualities and can play the passes that don't always look good, but the side to side 5-10 yard passes, progressing the ball a lot better than Trent. So he's done well.
Let's quickly comment on Crystal Palace. Obviously, you've been involved with Palace since you were 8 years old, going through the academy, signing your first pro contract with the club. If the Premier League started when Glasner was appointed last season, at the end of the season, Palace would have finished 4th. They're now in the relegation zone and looking pretty rubbish. Alarm bells ringing?
Yeah, they're going to be ringing for sure, with the players, with the club, all the staff and the fans. But I think it's important now for the players to really stick with each other, stick with the manager, and stick to the process of what they believe in. So what Glasner's telling them to do, Glasner, stick with your philosophy. It's not where you, as soon as it gets tough, you start trying to implement different things. Because if I'm a player and a manager's started losing some games and now he tries to change those things, that it makes me lose a little bit of respect for him. So I think stay as a unit and stick to the process. And if you keep doing that, results will come.
Is that not a bit contradictory to what you said about Ange needing to change it?
Yeah, but his philosophy, I don't think works, Ange. I think Glasner's philosophy does work.
I also think Ange is just so stubborn. I mean, I'm sure we'll get some comments on that coming through. So we'll have a bit of a Tottenham talk later on. But for now, it's time. It's the time that everyone's really waiting for. It's time to talk about Arsenal. Not for the first time this season. They made things pretty difficult for themselves. Home against Southampton as well. It concerns me a little bit. But they came from behind to get 3 points. The start of the show, as per usual, Bukayo, Starboy, Saka.
And that's the steps that players have to do. And he's been long enough in the team now. He has earned the right to have that role. He believes in that. He has the capacity to change games, to decide games like many other players, and we want to be at the top. Sometimes players have to create those moments, and he certainly has done that today. No, I think it's another step ahead in what he wants, and especially when, and do it at home, do it away, do it in big games, do it against not some other big games when the team needs it, not when it's 3-0. That's what defines a top player.
2 assists and a goal for Bukayo. It seems, from my perspective, that as soon as any player around the world has a good game, a good month, a good anything, it's now comparing him to Bukayo Saka. Is Bukayo Saka now the bar for what players need to be at?
It seems like that, doesn't it? It really does, because he's maintained that sort of 8 out of 10 for 2+ years now. And I think, yes, there might be periods of 3-4 weeks where another player might be a bit better informed than him, Cole Palmer right now. But because he's maintained it for such a long period and not really dropped off, he's always the one they are comparing to. And yeah, that's just a massive compliment for Saka, isn't it?
Look, Aisha, Lewis and I are both Arsenal fans, so we give him the benefit of the doubt, and we love the man like he's our own son. Well, can I ask you a question? Maybe a bit dramatic, whatever. Can I ask you a question? Is there a single team in the world that Bukayo Saka doesn't get into?
Oh, put me on the spot there. I think he's brilliant. I think at the moment he probably would get into every team. He is such an asset to that Arsenal team, and without him, Arsenal have absolutely no chance of winning the league, quite frankly. And he is not just playing great football, but is clearly a great leader in amongst that Arsenal team as well. And he's so young, and for him to be able to come in every week and have such an influence on the game, and get the team over the line when they need him, involved in all 3 of those goals and in a pretty exceptional way as well. So he's flying.
face of the franchise. One player that is really dropped off a little bit, though, is Gabriel Jesus. He sort of was part of the Arsenal revolution from 2 seasons ago when Arteta brought him and Zinchenko in from Manchester City. He's had an immense drop-off. Is it fitness? Is it confidence? What is it?
I think that's harsh. Immense
He's
drop-off
not
is harsh.
He's not up to it anymore.
I feel like it's a really difficult task to, first of all, come back from multiple injuries when the confidence will be low. And every time you're on the pitch, the role you're being asked to do is changing. He doesn't come on and do the same role all the time. I remember when we first got him at Arsenal, the 3 months he started before he got injured, he was a striker and he was playing the number 9 week in, week out, and he was unbelievable. Like I was shocked how good he was. Like he went up a level from City. So I feel like that's maybe what he would need to get back to his best, but he's probably not going to get that opportunity now at Arsenal with the level of competition.
You look at Manchester City, though, Pep Guardiola, the one thing he has in his personality, in his locker, is he's just so ruthless. He literally got rid of Jesus and Zinchenko after winning, multiple trophies with them. Arsenal haven't won anything with them yet. You just don't know how long they're going to last with Arteta, who's, shown players like Ramsdale and Smith Rowe out the door, who they were loved by the fans. Jesus, if you want to win the title, I don't think he's good enough to take Arsenal on that charge this year.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if Jesus went soon. And I wouldn't, it's not like this is me saying I want Jesus to start. I just think it's a really tough task of what he's got ahead of him. And like you said, to win the Premier League, you do have to be ruthless. So that's what Arteta's.
What about? Oh, sorry. I was going to say, what about Havertz? Because he's been great for you guys, and it sounds like he's got a bit of an injury. He's pulled out the Germany squad. How big of an issue do you think that might be if it is an injury?
I'm not one to start conspiracy theories here, but I think that Arsenal looked at the last international break, saw Martin Odegaard get injured, and just said, absolutely not happening again. I bet Kai Havertz is completely fine. I bet he's wrapped up in cotton wool with a hot water bottle, having a hot chocolate. He's loving life. What a player, by the way. He's now scored in 6 consecutive games at the Emirates, and the goal that he scored on Saturday was so Robin van Persie. And obviously, if he scores in Arsenal's next home game, he will then go, I think it's on level. Or
isn't he 7 now?
That was his 6th.
Oh, right.
He's, prefer him to Robin van Persie anyway.
We don't speak of his name.
We don't speak of his name. Let's move away from Arsenal. If you have got any Arsenal questions or comments, please do get them in, because we will get to them very quickly. But let's talk about a former English giant. Manchester United, they had quite a week. 2-0 up, 3-2 down, points salvaged in Porto. They kept Bayern Munich beaters Aston Villa at bay yesterday, and we heard from Erik ten Hag at full time.
Said it very good. External noise. Internal, we are disappointed, and we know we have to do better. Especially, we need to score more, because that is, in this moment, the area after this block of games where we are really short. All the other areas, I think we are doing really well. 4 clean sheets, so that tells something about the defending organization. Also now, the defending of defensive transitions, we are doing really well. So we are really improving on that point. Our build-up play is good. We are calm, composed. We're creating the chances, apart from today. I think today we should have created more. But that area in the box of the opponent, we have to be more ruthless, more clinical, more killing. And we have to work on this.
That looks like a very worried man, in my opinion. Aisha, take us through the last week from a Man United perspective.
Yeah, losing 3-0 to Spurs was just awful. As bad as it gets, in the words of Ange. But 2-0 up at Porto. I was thinking, okay, this is good. Rashford and Højlund on the score sheet, the people you want to be finding consistent form. And next thing you know, it's 5 minutes after half time and it's 3-2 Porto. And same old story for Man United, really. What on earth happened? Defensively appalling. I guess Ten Hag thought that as well. Because, Slabhead ended up fixing it, I guess, salvaging that point on Thursday night. Then Sunday 0-0. I think that's a pretty good result against Villa, who have beaten Bayern Munich in the week. having lost to Spurs by 3 goals, I think not conceding to Villa is a great result, actually, in the way that United are looking. But yeah, Ten Hag sort of just changed his mind on his defence, really. Got rid of Martinez and De Ligt.
Do you think they were dropped, or do you think,
I think that's the explanation, really. You've got Martinez and De Ligt who end up letting in those 3 goals, and then we've got Johnny Evans, veteran, 36-year-old.
Man of the match yesterday.
Yeah, he was brilliant. Like I think he was top on tackles, aerial duels. He was really he does that time and time again. He is a player who will put everything on the line for you. And I think actually that is something that Man United have been missing a lot in the last few seasons. And Johnny Evans, coming back to Man United, and he's still got that sort of old Fergie ethos in him and wants to just do everything he can for the team. And he was great. I'm sort of talking as if it's amazing. It was only 0-0, but I think progress is progress, and we've got to look at the baby steps at this point in time. And I think, international break, recoup, regather, and hopefully just keep going with those clean sheets.
Lewis, how do United steady the ship?
I don't know. I think it's good, the fact that if players have a bad game, they know then they may lose their place in the team. Like we've said with the centre backs being swapped out, you need to have healthy competition in a team. And if a player genuinely thinks that if I have a bad game, I'm going to be starting next week, similar to how I think Saka might feel at Arsenal, then it could drop them off their levels, maybe lose their concentration and focus a little bit. They need to have that competition in the forefront of their mind. How they steady the ship, I actually think United, come the end of the season, will be in quite a good place. I think they've gone through as much as they can go through with the criticism and the scrutiny from outside media. Ten Hag's handled it fairly well, I think, in recent times. He's sort of protecting the players, but also naming them when the standards are met. So I can see him slowly progressing towards the end of the year.
Well, you'd like to think so.
I hope so. I hope you're right, Lewis.
United's worst start to a Premier League campaign ever, but the noisy neighbours won yet again. City Oracle City. But should they be concerned at the amount of goals that they're conceding?
Defensively, you've gone behind again early in the game. You haven't kept a clean sheet in the Premier League since Chelsea. Is that a concern to you at all?
Well, I would say except Mbemo against Brentford scored the first minute. The other ones we were playing really, really good when we conceded the goal. But yeah, of course, it's not nice always you come back with 0-1, but we create the chances to go 1-0, 2-0 in the first minutes of the game, and every single game would happen that.
Do you think City needs to worry about their defence?
I mean, if you look back, they don't, because I've always thought over the last few years that they've looked open at the back quite often, really, but they just score more goals than the opposition. I'm not sure what their clean sheet stats are, but I've thought that they always look open because the forefront of their mind is offence and how can they score, because they have the ball so a lot longer than the other teams.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think I don't think it's anything to be too worried about at this point. Having said that, I think Fulham were really good. They really went toe to toe with City for the majority of that game, and they definitely could have got something out of it. They were almost unlucky not to. So maybe it is more of an issue than we think. We're just looking at the result and saying it's no issue.
But I mean, the whole thing about Spurs is they just think they can outscore their opposition.
Yeah.
So if City concede 2 goals a game, they just have to score 3. Rodri is, of course, the front runner for the Ballon d'Or, but his understudy, Mateo Kovacic, hardly had a bad weekend. He hit the first Premier League brace of his career.
Maybe it happened because he scored 2 goals. He's not a guy who scored goals, but maybe we saw Rodri with the goals he scored in that position. So yeah, listen, when they defend with 5 in the back, we start really well. In 2 minutes we have 2 chances, and they shape immediately 4-5 in the back. And when they defend in 5, there is 1 man free in the 80-yard box, that is Kovacic. Except Jimenez has to defend Kovacic, otherwise there are no transitions. So the 2 goals is because in that position they cannot defend it. And today the first goal was brilliant, the second one as well, and you had to exploit more against teams that play 5 in the back. And Kova was really important. Now the opponents know that they cannot leave him alone, otherwise they can score a goal.
if you're going to lose your best player, having a Champions League winner with Real Madrid and Chelsea as your backup isn't exactly the worst drop-off. Let's actually talk about his former club, Chelsea, before we get to the comments. Chelsea, title hopefuls last week, held at home for the second time in 3 matches. Christmas is coming, and so are the cards for Enzo Maresca's men.
If you get 6 or more bookings in one game,
Yeah.
the club gets a fine, £25,000.
Yeah.
You already had one after Bournemouth.
Yeah.
So you're going to get another one after today.
Yeah. I'm not going to pay. So it's not my problem.
I'm interested to know who does bad. But is there a discipline issue with these sort of young players? Is it?
No, I said many times, probably it's something that also we need to improve. But overall, I like the team, the way they are fighting. I like the team, the way they are becoming team in these kind of things. So I don't see any problem about that.
Maresca likes that little fighting spirit. Cards are coming thick and fast this season in the Premier League. Referees love brandishing the yellow. But away from that, do you think Chelsea found the best 11 yet?
They're certainly getting there, aren't they? I think their front 3 and middle 3 are pretty much there. The back 4, I still have questions over. I still think that could be chopped and changed. But I feel he's filtered it down really well, actually, a lot quicker than I thought he would, considering the amount of players he has and the amount of top quality players he has. So I've been impressed with them the last few weeks.
Yeah, they've definitely been good. I mean, 1-1, they'll be a bit disappointed, but having said that, I think Forest were great, and actually both keepers. Shout out to both keepers because they were actually out of this world on the weekend.
I think people need to remember as well that points are going to be dropped over the course of a season.
Yeah.
It happens. Question though. Who's most likely to finish in the top 4? Let's say Arsenal, Man City, and Liverpool are given. Villa, United, Chelsea, Spurs. Out of those 4, who do you think is most likely to take that 4th spot?
I can't believe you're still putting United in there.
United and Spurs for me are not in that. I'd go Villa and Chelsea. I believe it's between.
I will go for Chelsea, although I actually think there's going to be Chelsea, Villa, and Liverpool fighting over those bottom 2 spots. I think Liverpool are yet to be tested.
Quote me on this. Tottenham.
Tottenham
coming top 4.
No way.
Tottenham coming top 4. Aisha, let's get to the comments that were posted both before and during the show. Take it away.
So we've got a question from Tobogo Mbatha, who's asking, who is Arsenal's best back 4? So I'll put that to you guys as Arsenal fans.
I think best back 4, obviously the 2 centre-backs, I think, pick themselves at the moment, Saliba and Gabriel. Ben White, for me, when he's at his best, which he is a lot of the time he's playing, he's our best right-back, has to go in. It's then whether you go Timber or Calafiori, who have shown really good form. But judging from what I've seen this season, I'd probably go Timber just because of how good he looks when I've watched him live.
100% agree with you. I think Calafiori has come into this Arsenal setup and looked brilliant. Scored a fantastic goal against City, and the way he recovers balls that you think have got past him and just sticks out his long leg. Somehow he gets them. So this is absolutely no criticism of him. I just think Ben White for years and years and years has been at the top level of the Premier League. You can't kick him out of that starting 11 to make place for Calafiori and Timber. Only one of them can get in, and it's what Timber offers both forwards and defensively. So it's White, Saliba, Gabriel, and Jurriën Timber for me.
Nice. And we've got another comment from Mr. Egbali, who says Madueke is better than Saka. So
who's that from?
Mr. Egbali.
Mr. Egbali is wrong.
He's wrong. I'm afraid to say he's wrong. There's just, in what world? In what world? I can't see that at all. I don't know if you can, but
I don't know what he's on about.
Yeah, maybe he's a Chelsea fan. Anyway.
Fine. Let's quickly ramble through the other games and then get your comments coming through because we will get back to them at the end of the show. Newcastle failed to beat Everton despite a golden opportunity from the penalty spot. Anthony Gordon and Jordan Pickford will surely have lots to talk about over the international break. Aisha, did you watch that game?
I did indeed, yes. I mean, pretty feisty stuff, right?
It was kind of hectic, and Everton are loving it on social media.
Oh, yeah. And rightly so. I mean, you've got Jordan Pickford with his Sunderland ties saving a penalty against arch nemesis team Newcastle, and he went absolutely mad. And to add that into the mix, that it was Anthony Gordon who missed the penalty, and it's a recipe for a lot of social media fun for Everton.
Quite literally, I feel like they're the kings of housery. so far this season. I missed out one word, which you may or may not be able to guess. Are they Everton? The Everton admin is he the Neil Moore Pie of Premier League admins?
Is he the what? Sorry,
The Neil Moore Pie of Premier League admins.
Yeah, he's definitely up there, isn't he? I'm actually glad to see that sort of rivalry between players and clubs and fans as well. Because I feel like we've had a 5-10 year period where it sort of died out, and everyone was, like our England players are all best friends now. It used to be, United, Arsenal, Liverpool, all the players disliked each other. Really, it feels like we're slowly getting back towards that, and I think somewhere in the middle would be good to see again.
Bring back the drama.
Yeah, a great point for Everton as well. Like they'll be absolutely
Fantastic
delighted.
point for Everton.
Yeah.
Since the start of last season, only Arsenal and Liverpool have kept more clean sheets than Everton. And this is an Everton team that everybody tips to go down and thinks are absolutely rubbish. They're strong. They had a points deduction last season as well. It wasn't a good start, but I backed them to get back to their mid-table best, let's put it. Brentford didn't quite manage to score in the first minute. Took them 2 this time. Can they keep up this ridiculous early scoring that they seem to be doing every week?
I mean, if they keep it up, then there's something dodgy is going on if they keep scoring this early on. It's obviously something that I think they made a conscious effort of starting fast, because I don't think that would happen otherwise. Would they keep it up all season? You can't maintain that all season. I think teams have got to now clock on. I heard a joke about we've been practicing to win the toss against Brentford now, so they can't so they can't be scoring them 1-minute goals. But yeah, it's impressive from Brentford.
You've got to give it to Brentford and Wolves, because in a weekend where Arsenal, Man City and Liverpool were all playing on Saturday, Brentford Wolves was first on match of the day. Wolves winless in 7. This is their worst ever start to a Premier League season, just like 2003, 2004, where they broke their winless streak on match day 8 at home against Manchester City, who coincidentally they host next. Just saying. Leicester managed to grab their first win of the campaign. They swept Bournemouth aside, and their relegation contenders Ipswich were beaten after a 4-game drawing streak. Can West Ham fans take a breather?
No, I think if they take a breather, that'll be a big mistake. You can't take any breathers in the Premier League, especially when you're going to be in and around the relegation or have a chance of getting relegated. It's so hard to gain that momentum back once you've stopped. So you just need to keep your foot down and really keep your focus now.
Well, Ipswich, do you think that was a sign that things are about to go downhill for them?
Yeah, we were sort of talking them up a little bit last week, weren't we? So maybe it was our curse. They shipped quite a lot of goals, but I don't know. I think they've shown enough. I think they can just keep building on what they're doing. West Ham were on a mission, shall we say. Their manager's been under a lot of pressure, and they really needed that win, and they would have seen that as a sort of let's take blood here, because it's only Ipswich, I guess. But I think Ipswich, if they keep playing the way that they have in the previous few weeks and winning points here and there, and Delap again to score, I think he's going to be the man to keep them up.
So before we wrap up, any other comments coming through? Are people excited for the international break or dreading it like most normal, rational people?
So I've got a question. Are Liverpool title contenders, or do we wait until they have played a proper team such as Arsenal?
A proper team. That is serious shade thrown to Man United. Look, they've got a couple of good games coming up. I think Liverpool are title contenders because they have been for the last few seasons. Yes, there's been a managerial change, but the squad that they have is good enough. I think you can know whether a team's really going to be up there in the mixer after 12 games or so.
Yeah, I think it's going to be extremely tight with Liverpool, Arsenal, Man City, especially since the loss of Rodri, which I spoke about last week. I think it's just going to be a massive, massive loss for City, and that sort of brings them down to Arsenal and Liverpool. It's going to be tight between them three.
Yep. Nick Fadley says, I personally believe that Erik ten Hag should have been sacked last season. No offence. Hopefully ten Hag's not watching and he's not taking offence. I think he might have a bigger fish to fry. But he also suggests, Nick Fadley suggests Nagelsmann, Amorim or Terzic as potential replacements. Thoughts?
I'm a Nagelsmann fan. But look, you said before you think United are actually going to turn the ship around. I'm also pretty sure that if/when Ten Hag goes, they have their replacement sat right next to him already in Ruud van Nistelrooy. He's there to take over whenever they actually have to get rid of him. And I kind of like what Arsenal have done with Arteta. He's got the Arsenal DNA within the club. And throwing in a new big name doesn't work all the time. So I don't know.
I think it's going to I don't think changing the manager will make a drastic change in United's position or performance. I think if Ten Hag did leave, it wouldn't surprise me at all if he done really, really well at the club he went to after. So I think it's something they've got to ride out. You can't just keep chopping and changing and going for something else. I know he's been there a fair amount of time now, but I'd keep him.
Fair enough. Well, that's all for this week. We'll see you in a fortnight's time after the international break. Remember to check out our new membership scheme for unprecedented access into the world of football, and check out SofaScore as well for the best football scores and stats. We will see you very soon.